Welcome to Remix EQ Live. Where we are amplifying equity with a mix of information, interviews, and inspiration. I'm your host, Dr. Erica Tate, and today I am streaming live from Savannah, Georgia, where I live. And for those joining us today, please drop a greeting of choice in the comments. Let us know where you are joining us from and the equity work that you do or aspire to do. And remember, Remix EQ Live is an experience that's meant to be shared. So I encourage you to hit your share or invite button and invite your people, your network, your family, your friends, your peeps to join us. And while those comments are flowing in and those invitations are flowing out, I want to remind you that Remix EQ Live offers the opportunity for us to connect and build community with each other around the equity work being performed throughout the world. And we do this by centering the work that is our guests and viewers share examples of the work that they do in their role or position as a way to illustrate the innovative and effective ways they advance equity in the spaces in which they live, work, and play. Throughout the show and in the comments, I invite you to also share what you do to make the world a more just place. On today's show, I'm interviewing Dr. Brandeis Marshall, who is the CEO of DataedX and the author of Data Conscious, Algorithmic Siege on Our Humanity. Our conversation will center her pursuit of equitable practices in the data industry and her advocacy for Black women in data. So let's start our rally as we mix data science and social justice. Dr. Brandeis Marshall, welcome.
Hey,
And I invite you to introduce yourself. And as you do, please share any career twists and turns that have led you to your current position.
all right. Well, it's so wonderful to be here. So let me just hop in because I know we have a short amount of time to get all these questions answered. So yes, I am Dr. Brandeis Marshall. My career has been mainly as a teacher scholar, and I thought I was going to be a teacher scholar for my entire career. Had all these aspirations. However, life gives you twists and turns. And I got to the point in my career where I was like, the classroom is too small. My classroom needs to broaden a bit. And what has happened is that I was seeing a lot of the work I was doing that was impacting way beyond what I even could imagine. People from all over. That was me connecting with people on Twitter, me connecting with people on LinkedIn. And I decided, oh, I maybe need to do something on my own and create my own little lane and carve things out. And that's where DataedX Group came from, was me like all of a sudden I'm getting speaking requests, I'm getting people asking me to do some data projects and do some data research. And they were like, can we just pay you? And that's where it started. And it just is interesting on how you think your life is going to go one direction and it winds up going a completely different direction.
Yes. Oh, I love it. I love it. On the show, we love to normalize career twists and turns. And I love that you talked about not only did you twist and turn, but life gave you twists and turns and you adapted to that. And so I appreciate that. And we have a model of scholar to social entrepreneur that we can look up to. So we appreciate it. Thank you. Definitely connect with Brandeis in the comments during the show. We have a comment. Hey, y'all. Texas. I had to say it just like that. Joining from Texas. Hi! We're so glad you're here. And for those who are just joining us, this is Remix EQ Live, where we are amplifying equity through a mix of information, interviews, and inspiration. And now that you've had a chance to meet or reconnect with Dr. Brandeis Marshall, I know that you are inviting others to tune in. And of course, I invite you to interact with us today. Post comments, ask questions as we dive into this interview. You are part of the Remix EQ Live experience. Now, we center the work. This is an opportunity for us to learn from Brandeis about her approaches and strategies for creating more equitable data practices. So, Brandeis, in your role as CEO of DataedX, how do you center equity in education, training, and practice within the data industry?
Well, this is a very complicated question, but let me just break it down this way. I help people make better and more responsible data connections. So, what that means is that through education, I try to highlight any group that has been historically marginalized. So, yes, I talk about Black people, I talk about Indigenous people, I talk about Latino people inside of the work when it comes to education, because that's what we don't have right now in the data industry, right? It's very much homogeneous. It's very much centered on the established disciplines of computer science, statistics, and mathematics. So we need to broaden our lens a bit. So I really like asking questions and trying to understand the cultural competency of different groups in order to bring their contributions to light and then start to have conversations about what are approaches that actually are equitable by looking at the majority of people as part of the participation versus just one homogeneous group.
Oh, that is very awesome. And like when you say like it's so needed and necessary, and so like I appreciate you like centering on the lives that have been of those who have been excluded and making that like front and center of your work in the data industry. And that's not something most people think of, but now we do because you're
Yes.
doing that work. So I appreciate it. Oh, we have another Chiquita. That's like how I yell her name. Oh, hello, Dr. Marshall. She's tuning in from Southern Maryland. Welcome to the show. Good to see you again. And hello, Brianna Matchett. She loves hearing about your journey, Brandeis. And we are going to hear much, much more.
Yes.
So I am excited for our Remix EQ Live community to celebrate your authorship. So yes, Dr. Brandeis Marshall has written a data conscious. Look at this on the screen. You can't miss it. Algorithmic Siege on our humanities. So I encourage you to buy it, read it, learn from it, apply it, and do good with it. All right. It is its purpose. But before we get into the book, I just wanted to ask Brandeis, what motivated you to write this book and who should read it and why?
And why? That's always a great question, the why question. I have a whole chapter dedicated to like the why question in data. So funny. So what motivated me to write this book? First off, I saw a gap when it came to data resources, like the books, the articles, the research. So much of the focus was on coding and modeling and visualizing data, and all of those aspects, without a mention to what was the consequences and then what was the impact of all this computation and, of course, automation. And what does that mean when it comes to data driven decision making? What is the real impact of move fast and break things mantra that is like so tantamount in tech? And so I wrote the book as a way to say, here is an introduction to the way the data industry should be introduced. There's some history, there's some politics, there's some economics, of course there's computation, and of course there's civics. So that's what the breadth of the book is covering. And it's really intended to be for people who are making decisions about data. So who are those people? They could be in the classroom at the graduate level. They could be in the office, right? They could be in the C-suite. But it's people who are sitting there trying to figure out what the heck could these data points mean. And you can call data different things, right? We can call it content. We can call it media. We can call it information. We can call it insights. But whatever you call data, this book is intended, shameless plug, to help you think through the consequences of the data. And then it offers some questions to ask at every stage of the data pipeline. So yes, there's some governance things. Yes, there is some technical things as part of this book, but there's also this notion of transparency, accountability, and governance. Like I just covered the 3 lanes. So get into the book and then yes, apply. Question yourself, question your team, question your organization, and let's make more responsible data connections.
I love it. I love it. I love that. Like you position it as a way to introduce you to the field of data, but really, which is our everyday life, right? I mean, the way that it intersects. So I think that's wonderful. And I think for those who are like me, who appreciate learning about equity and how it intersects with like different aspects of our life, our context, or disciplines, which is why you're tuning into Remix EQ Live. So everybody, definitely read it. And as I've been reading it, I've been really enjoying building my knowledge about not only like the technological aspects or the technical aspects that you mentioned, but also the social and historical context that you provide that explains how these inequities came to be in the first place. And I think you do it in a really compelling way. I appreciate and love and enjoy your tone. Like it's a very welcome change to text in these spaces because of who you are and how you understand the world. And I was reading and I just wanted to say, I think that there's an example in there where you introduce this idea of algorithmic making, like how do you make an algorithm, and you use the shampoo algorithm. And I'm saying, okay, she uses this algorithm and it talks about how do I wash my locks. And I was like, wait, I understand this completely. Like, how do I wash my locks? I was able to like move into the example. And I'm saying this to like kind of illustrate what it means for diverse voices to contribute to a space, because I read the example, I understood it completely. I did not have to use all this time trying to generate connections to build background information to figure out what I'm supposed to do and make meaning of it. I got in there and I was like, yes, washing your locks. Okay, now I'm going to learn how to make an algorithm and become a coder. But I appreciate it. It's like those type of examples where I rarely and never get learning examples that relate to me that closely. And so I appreciate it. And I understand, like, it means a lot to read an example and learn like that because it actually related to your life. So
exactly. And the reason why I put that particular example in is because in entry level computer science type of courses, or anyone that is doing any type of like coding boot camp, they will have certain algorithms that they have to do as part of an exercise to learn how to write an algorithm, which is just a step-by-step process, right? That's what an algorithm is, very fundamentally. And they will say things like, okay, how do you do your laundry? How do you wash your hair? But in those examples, it's always based upon some type of Anglo-Saxon or European hairstyle. It's never based upon the hairstyle of a different culture and how it might be slightly different. And so I wanted to put that example in to go, no, this is how I interpret this particular example, and this needs to be out into the world.
Yes. Well, your interpretation and perspective is appreciated and welcome. So I want to dive into the book. So in Data Conscious, you critique the status quo. You mentioned earlier about in the tech and innovation space about how we want to move fast and break things, like getting things to market, whether it's a real or perceived need, or like testing and breaking things so that it works for most people. So Brandeis, like, why does this approach not work? And for whom does it not work? And then what else can or should we do?
Yeah, so the reason why this approach does not work is because there is an intentional friction inside of the data and tech industry. So let me just say this. I consider data as fuel to algorithms, and algorithms are cobbled together to create tech, right? So to me, everything originates with data. And so I do say data and tech together, right? Because the source and then of course the outcome together. So the data and tech communities, they both have this intrinsic issue and this friction. And that is because they are trying to make life better for all of us. Yet a lot of their processes extract humanity. They don't talk to people. So it doesn't work because there's a bunch of people sitting down having conversations and then coding up situations without including people in that process. That's why it don't work.
Okay.
That's okay. So that's the first question that you
asked. I love it.
Yes. And for whom it doesn't work for is everyone who has been historically excluded. So that does mean like you and me as Black women, that does mean Black men and other non-binary individuals. It does mean people who are from other demographic groups, people who are disabled. It's always as if anyone that is not white and male are considered an extension. We'll get to that later. It's never built. The system is not designed and built for all people. It's built for a certain demographic. That's for whom it does not work, is everyone that's not in that demographic. And that tends to be cis, white, and Asian men for the most part. Yep. Okay. Now the third question that you ask is, what else should we do? Right. And this is the reason why I think the book is important. I think conversations like this is extremely important, and to have this space in order to have conversations on understanding, first of all, recognizing and then understanding the system is not built in order to be helpful to all people. So we need to start to have conversations earlier and earlier in the creation of tech, the use of data for all the people that are going to be using it. Right? It's not just having a Black face in a room or Hispanic face in a room or a Latino face in a room. It's about getting that cultural competency into the room and then making sure those voices are heard, and then the approaches are embedded into the system. Yeah. It does not help just to have equality, right, which everyone gets to have their voice. It's a matter of having equity. Yeah. Where the voices of the marginalized, the voices of those historically excluded, actually get what they need. For like the example in the book where I'm talking about shampooing my locks. We need to have more of that. How is shampooing my locks different than shampooing someone who is a descendant of Europe and Anglo-Saxon? They're different. Right. But everyone's talking about, well, it doesn't really matter as long as the example is there. No, it does matter. So let's bring that into the conversation.
No, I love that, because you're really talking about a more inclusive design process that's bringing people to the table. And I was wondering, could you offer like one example for us of like what it looks like or sounds like, or what comes out like in the product when there's a more inclusive design process in place?
What happens is that at the end of the day, you will now have the ability, so let's take text. Okay. What will happen at the end of the day is that the words used by, let's say it's Ebonics, they don't call it Ebonics anymore, AAVE, African American Vernacular English, right? They have a fancy name for it now, right? You will have those words that are not have a red squiggly line underneath them.
Got it.
Right? It actually be part of the language instead of being AAVE. Like it's a different set.
Right.
It's part of the core. It's not part of the extra or the outside of the main lane. It's in the main core of the system. That's what it looks like.
Okay. I love that. Thank you. This is really, I just love that. First of all, I love that you make data the mother of all things.
I'm going to use that line moving forward. Data is the mother.
It began with
mother, by the way.
Right. But like, as an example to show us like just how powerful it is, and then the way that we consider it and the way that we include it and use it makes a difference, not only in the tech that we make, but the experience that we have with tech or other innovations in our society. So I think that's important. And I'm glad that we're having that conversation, because sometimes we talk about it in terms of our social systems, and tech is a social system, but we don't necessarily talk about it in terms of like our digital products and digital spaces. And so I appreciate all the perspectives that you are bringing to the table. So I'll check some comments. So Shakara Johnson Lyons, I just had to say your whole name, but she says, happy Friday and so glad to tune in. And we are glad to have you. And Janie Chapman, she says, happy Friday. And she's excited to be joining and learning and hearing more from Dr. Marshall. And we're glad to have you guys. Thank you for being a part of our community. So Dr. Brandeis Marshall, like most change makers, you wear many hats. You're a CEO, a scholar. You are also the host of Black Women in the Data Community, where you champion for the professional and personal well-being of Black women in the data industry. So how does your advocacy for Black women in data support your pursuit of equitable practices throughout the data industry?
Oh yeah, this is easy. Black women are about 1% of the data industry, little less than. But yet, most of the technology affects Black women first. So my advocacy is all about making sure Black women are seen and that their voices and their approaches and their contributions are embedded into the systems that affect us the most. And that's the reason why, as you know, because you were at the Black Women in Data Summit just earlier this month, is that I have a particular proclamation, right? I want to see Black women occupy 13%. The US, that's because 13% is the US population of Black people, 13% of the data roles, right? That's the reason, because Black women need to be at the data table, having conversations with individuals about how the tech is being created, how their data is being used and misused in ways that are impacting Black women, content moderation, any type of cyberbullying, all types of ways to make sure that we have educational examples about shampooing your locks. Okay? We need to have that inside of the curriculum. We need to have that inside of conversations. We need to normalize that so that we are seen. So my advocacy, my company, Black Women in Data, it's all about making sure Black women are seen and taken care of inside of the digital space in a way that we have been ignored and pushed aside, but no more.
Yes.
No more. No more.
I love it. And there's a comment that says, Dr. Marshall, make sure we are seen. And yes, yes. And I'm like, I love it. Well, like Brandeis said, I had the opportunity to attend the Black Women in Data Summit earlier this year in Atlanta. And then to kick off the event, Dr. Brandeis Marshall delivered a beautiful keynote encouraging Black women in the data industry to receive all of their flowers. And yes, whether it was the coins, the cha-ching that they deserve, or if it was being part of a supportive, inclusive community that pours into you. So as we begin to close out the show, Dr. Brandeis Marshall, what flowers do you receive that give you life so that you can continue the very important work of making the world a more just place?
What the thank you notes that I received, I cannot tell you how much that warmed my heart. But in addition, I will have to tell you, all of the fact that people paid to come so that you could enjoy the experience, those that came online, those that came in person, the sponsors, the fact that there was actual financial support for this movement, in addition to receiving the thank yous. Now, I don't want to just say it's all about the money, but let's be real. Black women aren't supported at the same level. So to get the support, not only encouraging and cheerleading, but also monetarily, that combination to me is how I receive flowers. And the fact that I get to redistribute some of that money to the speakers and to all of the vendors who are Black women-owned businesses, like that to me, like gives me like all the giddy up to do more. Like, can't wait to like get in the community and like, let's go, y'all. Let's get it.
Like I should ride something, a horse. I don't know.
I've been dancing since I've been four. My mom pushed me in dance class when I was 4. So I'm always dancing.
I'm here with you. No, oh my gosh. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate you shining a light not only on Black women, but shining a light on the Black women participating and others participating in the process for things that we use every day that impact our lives, both for good and for bad, but really pushing us and others to think really deeply about how to make change and how to make change intentionally. And so I am so grateful that you took time to come on our show. I want you guys to keep those comments coming in, keep sending those little flowers. But it's no surprise that Dr. Brandeis Marshall is booked and busy. So she is going to head off to her next engagement, but I want to make sure you know that we and I definitely appreciate you for generously sharing your valued and valuable time and expertise with us. It's so appreciative, and I hope you come back so we can talk and get some more.
What you talking about? Of course. What the next Black Women in Data Summit? We got to do one from there, right? While we both eating the grits.
Oh, the creamy cream cheese grits. Oh, I love those. Those gave me life. Oh, I shall let you go. Thank you so much. I'm going to stay on for some announcements, but thank you. Thank you.
Have a great Friday, y'all.
You too.
Bye.
Oh, awesome. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I just have a couple of announcements. Oh, that was such a great show. I just wanted to give you guys a reminder that I will be back on Friday, November 11th at 11:30 a.m. Eastern for our closing episode of season 2. Can you believe it? 2 seasons have passed us. And of course, I will share reflections on this amazing season of Rally and this first year of Remix EQ Live. I'll also drop some details about a new Remix EQ experience coming real soon. So watch your feed, check your inbox so that you have the details to tune in to the next show. Until then, visit the Remix EQ Live webpage for past episodes, more information about our inspiring guests and upcoming shows. Check out our new merch. Also learn why Rally is our battle cry for this season of Remix EQ Live and how we recognize, appreciate, learn, love, and take care of you as you work to make the world a more just place. And while you're there, please poke around the website to learn more about my business of Blue Knowledge and how we advance equity in schools and communities. You can also follow us on LinkedIn. And of course, I invite you to connect with me too in this space. I have a couple of comments to close out our show. Shakia, hi! She was my breakfast buddy at the Black Women in Data conference where we ate cream cheese grits. But she says, great combo, guys. Awesome. Thank you for joining in. And then Brianna Matchett says, Black women need to be at the data table. Love it. And that's exactly what this conversation was about. And of course, Chiquita. Love it. I'm so good to see you all here. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for your engagement, your comments, your encouragement, your rally, which keep us inspired to make the world a more just place. I'm your host, Dr. Erica Tate, and this is Remix EQ Live. See you next time.